Today, we saw benchmark indices closing on a weak note today, with the Nifty settling around 25,200. The Sensex declined by 466 points, to close at 82,160 level. The Nifty IT was the biggest loser, pressured by the hike in the H-1B visa fees announced over the weekend by President Donald Trump. Now, most other sectors also finished in the red, but to give us more details, my colleague Puneet now joining us with a detailed market roundup of the day.
Well, it was a day that started under pressure and that was largely led by global factors. We did see some key indexes like the Nifty IT getting impacted, but all of these factors contributed to pressure on the Nifty 50 today. And while we have closed just a tad above 25,200, that was a short-term relief to say the least. We saw over 125-point reduction on the Nifty 50 today. The IT sector was dominating the news flow after President Trump hiked the H-1B visa fee from roughly about $1,000 to over $100,000, and with IT being one of the major employers in USA of H-1B visa applicants, we did see some pressure there as well. While brokerages did come out with mixed views, with certain brokerages affirming that we could see a margin impact, there were some that also saw that the reduction of H-1B visa applicants since 2016 by IT companies like TCS and Infosys does give them some pivot. That'll be something to watch out for in the near term. Amongst others, we did see that the top Nifty losers because of that were largely Tech Mahindra and TCS, but we also saw some positive gains as well on stocks like Adani Enterprises, as well as something like an Eternal that did give some positive fillip to the Nifty 50 today. When you look at the mid-cap and the small-cap index, both ended in the red, and that was largely led by individual stocks that were impacted. For the mid-cap 150, we saw the drag was led by Emphasis and Coforge for similar reasons that we mentioned for the Nifty 50, while for the small cap, K Fintech as well as Zentar were the biggest losers during the trading day. When you look at some key sectoral indices, and there's no surprise, the Nifty IT was the top sectoral loser today. And amongst others, we also saw some positive fillip on the other side, led by the Nifty Energy, which was led by Adani Power as well as Adani Green. Adani Power did have the stock split impact as well, but apart from that as well, it was up 20% in trade today. When you look at some other key sectoral losers, Nifty IT had LTIMindtree, Emphasis as well, which got impacted because of the H-1B visa hike. While we also saw the Nifty Metal gain for the third straight in a row, the Nifty Media snapped a two-day gaining streak. Overall, when you see the setup tomorrow, it'll be important if we can maintain that 25,200 level. So we might want some positive fillip into tomorrow's session, but largely a day dominated by global news flow. And tomorrow as well, 25,200 as well as 25,100 will be the key levels to watch out for.
Thanks, Puneet, for that. Meanwhile, brokerages have given mixed reactions to the H-1B visa fee hike announced by President Donald Trump on Saturday. As part of his latest crackdown on immigration, the U.S. president signed a proclamation imposing a $100,000 fee, that's over 88 lakh rupees, on new H-1B visa applicants. Puneet is back with us to share the varied perspectives that we saw from brokerages on how this move could impact the market and Indian IT companies. Puneet, over to you.
They're not seeing a very meaningful impact because from 2016 onwards, a lot of IT companies began to reduce their exposure to H-1B. Now, that was largely led by onshoring as well as hiring local talent in US, as well as increasing the exposure of offsite with GCCs as one of the key growth areas as well. So largely when you see Investec as a brokerage firm, they mentioned that they don't see any meaningful impact. But a couple of key points that they've made, they have mentioned they're expecting a potentially higher US wage inflation going forward. They're also seeing that operating models for all these IT companies will start to see changes and undergo meaningful changes going forward. And they're expecting that a higher local hiring for someone like the IT companies like TCS amongst others, and higher on-site wage inflation will likely impact margins, at least in the near term. That's what the key aspect that Investec is making. Someone like a Citi as well, largely, we have spoken to the analyst on our channel multiple times, Mr. Surendra, and he seems to be highlighting that there are pressures for the IT space as a whole. They're seeing multiple potential impacts because of this. They've highlighted that the cost of doing business is largely expected to go up, but this will be passed to clients probably with a lag, and hence you could see some impact on profits because of that. Higher nearshoring as well as offshoring, which essentially means that you will hire in India and they'll be working for those clients in the US as well as GCCs, is a very likely outcome. That seems to be a common theory amongst others, and the margins will of course get impacted because of that as well. The last key point that they're making is, the competitiveness in the global context doesn't change, and that seems to be another key point, that we are one of the lowest cost IT services companies essentially. So that will be a key that will be a strength that will continue to maintain as well. Finally, in terms of brokerages, I want to highlight Jefferies as well, because they've highlighted that 7 to 12% of the business will be renegotiated in the next 3 to 5 years, and they've highlighted that a change in operating model is likely for the Indian IT companies, and that seems to be a gist of a clutch of brokerages making some key points. So while near-term impact is limited, once the clarity emerges, operating models of all these IT companies will start to see a change, and that will be the other one to watch out for how this happens going forward as well.
Right, Puneet, thanks so much for that. And to understand the exact impact of new H-1B visa fees and whether this move is a setback for Indian IT or an opportunity to reinvent itself, don't miss the big question this evening, airing live at 6 p.m. with my colleague Vikram Moza. The show will explore if the American dream is becoming unattainable for Indian tech professionals amid these new visa fee hikes. Don't forget to catch that. And moving on.